Welcome back, Wolfpack. Breloom here to a facts, stats, trivia, and a top 10 for the grass typings. We've done it, guys. The last top 10 in trivia video for all types in Pokemon. Please leave a like if you are super hyped for the conclusion of this list being the grass typing. So when we look at the grass typing defensively, it's already looking like we are going to be in for not so great of a time. 5 weaknesses straight up, but we do also get 4 resistances. I do feel that those weaknesses are going to be a lot more important though, because if you're just eating non-stop super effective hits from things that are fairly common, it's not looking that great. Yeah, flying with Talonflame and some other really fast bird type Pokemon out there, it's not looking really good. And we also have the poison typing. Poisons gain a lot of popularity because of the fairy typing. Bug, alright, that's not that common, but fire and ice are Pokemon that you will see all the time, and ice is very, very common as a hidden power as well as fire because of Pokemon like Ferrothorn or Garchomp. Just a lot of powerful things that the grass has to worry about, and that could go pretty bad. So you have a couple of options to switch grass in on, but leaving it in is going to be a lot more difficult, which is why I'm also kind of not a huge fan of grass as just a durable, just good typing in general based off of what we see here. Offensively though, it doesn't get much better. That we have 3 things that we hit super effective, and then the rest are going to be resisted. Bug, Dragon, Fire, Flying, Grass, and Poison are going to resist us, as well as the 5 weaknesses. This is why I saved the grass for last, because it's kind of pretty well known that on my channel it's almost a meme that the grass typing isn't that fantastic, and I don't regard it very highly as an individual typing. Now, there are good dual types and stuff out there, but overall, kind of become a joke, and that just kind of shows when we also look at the base stat totals. Base stat totals are below average for the average stats of all evolved Pokemon. It's still not that great. The hit points are going to be 10th, and then we have attack at 8th, and then we also have special attack being the highest for grass typing at 7th. But then we look at, we're not too durable, we're not too fast, we don't have that great of offensive spread. Grass typing just does not pull through. Now, when we do talk about individual grass type Pokemon, we can find that there are going to be some interesting cases like Mega Sceptile. Mega Sceptile has the single highest base stat of any grass type with a 145 in special attack and its speed, and it's also going to be the highest individual base stat total next to Venusaur. So Mega Grass type Pokemon are going to kind of carry out these stats, and interestingly enough, right now, think about what the highest individual stat of a non-Mega, non-legendary grass type Pokemon would be. It's actually Go-Goat. Go-Goat's hit points is 450 for the individual stat, even though it only has a base stat of 123 on the hit points. There are Pokemon like Breloom and Leafeon that actually have more of an individual stat. When we look at Breloom, 130 on the attack, but it's not going to have as high of a stat as just Go-Goat, because that's how hit points work compared to all the other stats when it comes to base stat totals. And then when we look at it, there are going to be 4 grass type legendaries, and it is the 4th most common typing. So grass being around since the 1st generation and embodying a lot of really interesting things, because grass, that's fairly ambiguous. You can make a tree and then have it become grass. You can make a goat and then have it work with grass in that regard, and you can just kind of make any plant-based Pokemon grass. So it's very common, but overall the stats still aren't very high, and the usage varies quite a bit, and we just really have to worry about tankier grass type Pokemon. They don't come through when it comes to those weaknesses, and that's quite a bit of a problem. Now, the 6th generation was fairly interesting with the grass typing because it introduced the fewest amount of grass type Pokemon. By the way, the 5th generation introduced the most, with 21 grass type Pokemon being introduced in the 5th generation. But with the 6th generation, it's kind of added a massive buff to grass types. Now, while Leech Seed has never affected grass type Pokemon even since the 1st generation, now certain powder and spore moves don't affect grass type Pokemon. This includes the move Spore itself, as well as really interesting things like Rage Powder and like Sleep Powder, Stun Spore, anything like that. So that means any non-grass type Pokemon matching up with a grass type that would have normally had an advantage doesn't anymore, and also grass type Pokemon just kind of don't work against each other in certain ways when it comes down to those kind of stall aspects, which gets pretty interesting. Now, when we look at the grass typing, it is going to share the most monotype weaknesses with rock. So we're going to see that with rock, it's fighting, grass, ground, steel, and water weaknesses, but that's still not that fantastic when it comes to grass. However, grass has this magical ability to almost curse any other typing that it's stuck with. With the exception of steel, you're going to have tons of weaknesses because it's just so hard to shake those other weaknesses. And when we look at a breakdown of the overall net loss compared to super effective hits, the grass typing is going to be up there with more than anything. That 6 of the top 10 dual typings that are in the most susceptible typings are going to be grass. Now, ice does have 4, rock has 2, so the rock actually handles it a lot better because they do have some good resistances behind it. Rock is still a very durable typing, and the weaknesses aren't as crippling, but when we look at grass, it's not going to do well with most anything. Now, even poison grass is going to be pretty bad. Now, Pokemon like Mega Venusaur is going to get a bit lucky with that thick fat ability. It's actually a really beautiful combo, making it to where it only effectively has 2 weaknesses, which is about average, if not a little better than average on dual type Pokemon. But the rest of it, that's a lot of green, and we want to be seeing red for those resistances, so unfortunately that's not going to be a good thing at all. Also, the grass typing has the most draining moves out of any typing. Other typings only have like 1 draining move max, like Dream Eater or something like that. Comes to grass, we get 5. Giga Drain, Absorb, Mega Drain being the core 3, Leech Seed always being in there, and also Horn Leech giving us a physical draining option. So it shows that the grass typing has a lot of sustain because we also have Synthesis playing into those aspects, and that could be one of the reasons why it's so susceptible, is because it can be a very enduring typing if it's not being hit super effective. So that is one of the ways of balancing it, but unfortunately it's just not good to be a grass type Pokemon when it comes to typing matchups, and all that sustain means nothing if you are getting one shot. And also there's a lot of abilities that exclusively belong to grass type Pokemon or interact with the grass type. We have Chlorophyll, Effect Spore, Harvest, Leaf Guard, and Overgrow only being for grass type Pokemon, and all of these are actually really good with the exception of Leaf Guard. I mean, Overgrow can find its opportunities if you are going to be playing some kind of specific setup. Harvest is a very powerful ability. You can either use it for like infinite Lumberry Rust sustain, you can also go for Citrus Berry, or you can even use like Salac and Patea Berries and just kind of have an infinite engine of stat gain right there. Effect Spore could work in your favor, and Chlorophyll turns any of the grass type Pokemon to have it into a massive sweeper under Sun, either in singles or doubles. So let's go on and now look at the top 10 grass type Pokemon since we are done with trivia right now. Alright, let's try to wrap up this list really quick with Abomasnow at number 10. Now, it does have the Snow Warning ability, and that's pretty much the only thing that makes it on the list. Huge amount of power out of just setting hail. It makes it to where your Blizzard has 100% accuracy, and the only other Pokemon to get Snow Warning is going to be Aurorus. Now, Abomasnow and Aurorus do have a lot of weaknesses just by themselves and stuff, and we look at the Mega Abomasnow, very high amounts of damage as well, very high attack, special attack, also good defenses. So if it's not eating one of its many weak hits, it's going to actually be surviving pretty well, and it can dish out a lot of varied damage. That the special attack, well, that's going to be a very powerful Stab Blizzard, or the attack is going to be a very powerful Wood Hammer. So Abomasnow just finds ways to work out, has good team compositions, and that's why it's going to be number 10, mostly being carried by its ability. Number 9 is going to be Cradily. Cradily is a fairly meta-heavy Pokemon with that Storm Drain. Draws in water moves to buff itself by 1 special attack, also has the water immunity, and then it can play a lot of really crazy stuff from there. Has Stockpile setup, it also just can go for any kind of things with it. It has Stone Edge for damage, can also set up Swords Dance, and it's just a tanky Pokemon overall. That 86, 97, 107, when going into full investment, does make it a fairly difficult Pokemon to remove, and the Grass and Rock Stab is going to deal with a lot of Water-type metagames. So if you need to kind of anti-rain, Cradily has found its time in doubles in the meta, or in singles, it can just kind of set up and become a very brutal Pokemon to deal with. Stockpile plus Recover can be very hard to deal with. You also do get access to the Giga Drain if you want to heal up just a bit inside of that, but it's going to be reliable. It's going to be tanky, it's going to sit in there, and it's going to just kind of screw around with your opponent a bit, and for the most part, that's going to find some effectiveness, at least to put it somewhere on the list. Alright, number 8 is going to be Whimsicott. Whimsicott is an annoying prankster Pokemon. Any Pokemon with prankster is going to be incredibly powerful, and Whimsicott does have Subseed. So you go Leech Seed, you go Substitute, and it's all going to be before your opponent can react, and then you hide behind the leftovers, and then you eventually just burn them down into nothing. You can even run the Protect, so the idea behind this is leftovers, that's a 16th of your health. Leftovers, that's a 16th of your health. Boom, 1/8 plus 1/8 from a Leech Seed means you are paying off your Substitute, and you're making it to where the opponent can do nothing, and then you get an extra tech move right here. So you can run the Cotton Guard to make it to where you're going to be unkillable defensively. You won't even need a substitute in those situations. Also run the Encore to really lock your opponent in if they're going for setup. Taunt to just kind of stop their setup beforehand. And there's even Tailwind. With Tailwind, this gives you doubles options, and you can be a massive support in doubles to do all kinds of other things. And if you know your Whimsicott's about to go down, either from just being on the field for too long or getting walled out, blown up by poison types, anything like that, you can set up the Tailwind and still find opportunities to kind of regain the momentum and sweep. Has Memento, has Moonblast, gets pretty solid stab, knock off annoyances. It just does a lot of really weird things, and with the 116 speed, it is going to be the fastest prankster Pokemon in the game, so you can't get out-taunted. Your Tailwind is going to go off unless you eat something like a Priority Brave Bird from a Talonflame. But those are just the weird fringe cases, and you can still kind of predict that when it's coming. So Whimsicott, it has a lot of really nasty prankster stuff up its sleeve, so that's why it's going to be number 8 on the list, but it is kind of one trick, can be walled out by grass from that Leech Seed, and all sorts of other things. Number 7, though, is going to be the Lilligant. Lilligant is one of the more powerful grass-type Pokemon because it has one of the most powerful moves in the game. Quiver Dance raises special attack, special defense, and speed by 1. Well, I mean, we have a 90 base speed. Depending on how you look at that, 279 going 1.5 times is going to outspeed most Pokemon naturally, and you can either run the Timid or the Modest Nature, run with a Focus Sash so you survive that first hit, and then you just blow up everything from there. Also, your ability does give you some interesting options as well. Chlorophyll, well, you can run it in doubles next to Sunny Day. The Quiver Dance doesn't even need to happen at that point. You can just run the Growth. Growth raises your attack and special attack by 1 unless it's in Sun. Then it's 2. So you're doubling your special attack, doubling your speed, Growth, Chlorophyll, such a sick combo. And then Lilligant can run away with the battle from there. Focus Sash still going to help keep it alive in a lot of those cases. Or it can own Tempo. Own Tempo means it's not going to be able to get confused if you aren't running the Growth kind of combo stuff. But that can just work out if you're going up against a stray Swagger Pokemon, or if weird things are happening with Confused Ray Stall. Own Tempo is going to ignore that, you get a free Quiver Dance, and then you just have all kinds of damage from there. Giga Drain if you want slight sustain out of it, or you just run the Energy Ball, slightly more damage, and then the rest of your coverage is going to be up to you. You are most likely going to need to run into some kind of Hidden Power Fire to break down the other Grass-type Pokemon. You have Heal Bell, Healing Wish if you want to use it. Also, Leaf Storm. Leaf Storm is kind of like that last hurrah kind of move. You set up the Quiver Dance, you don't know if you're going to break down your opponent, either a tanky Pokemon or something like that. The Leaf Storm is going to help carry you through that, or again, you have a lot of supportive options from there, and even then, you can run into the Teeter Dance. Teeter Dance is going to put your opponent confused, and that could be pretty massive, You go for the Quiver Dance. Like, if you're slower, just Quiver Dance. If you're faster, go for the Teeter Dance. They hit themselves in confusion. That's free Quiver Dances for you all day long that might potentially do something. That's what we're looking when it comes to the Lilligant. However, just the amount of sweeping potential does put it very high. Well, not very high, but at least makes it on the list for number 10. Number 6 is going to be Sceptile and Mega Sceptile. Sceptile is very powerful on its own with the Unburden ability. If it combos into that, it can set up all kinds of weirdness. Swords Dance, take a hit, either Citrus Berry or Focus Sash procs. Now you're at double speed, double attack using a move like Leaf Blade, and you also do find weird coverage. You get things like the Crunch. You even do find Earthquakes. I mean, Leaf Blade Earthquake into other coverage moves is going to be very powerful for you, even the Drain Punch. So you can get some really weird Sceptile things going for it physically. That's also going to be powerful. Or you also just run that special. And then we are going to look at the Mega Sceptile. Mega Sceptile gets Lightning Rod, which means we have something to keep our Water-type Pokemon safe. We have something to just kind of play into that Lightning Rod. They use Electric-type moves. Well, it draws it in. And then you gain special attack. Also, Sceptile is going to be ridiculous when it comes at speed. 145 base speed means that you can run a Modest or a Timid Nature depending on what you're running, and still a huge amount of speed. Timid's going to make you pretty much untouchable and still give you a high amount of special attack. Now, the big thing about being a Mega Pokemon is that you do not get an item, but we can make up for that with our Lightning Rod. You go Scarf Discharge in double battles. Discharge hits you, gain special attack. Now you're hitting with that special attack, and you can do all kinds of things with that. Also, forgot to mention the Acrobatics. If you're Unburdened Acrobatics, that's going to combo naturally if you are running the Unburdened non-Mega Sceptile set. When we look at the Mega Dragon Pulse, well, that's actually going to become Stab now and just add to your damage. Giga Drain does work. You also do can run like the Energy Ball. It does expose a weakness of Grass-type Pokemon. Their coverage is not that fantastic. You pretty much need some kind of hidden power to really carry you through, and then you're going to go for your stabs or something like that. Sceptile can run the Rock Slide if you want to like anti-tech against Grass-type Pokemon or against Flying-type Pokemon. And when you can also look at your other ideas, if we're running doubles, you run the Protect. So find your hidden power, find your little crazy tech move. I mean, Earthquake can work out. This is going to be very powerful against Pokemon like Heatran if you don't have a way of dealing with that. But overall, discharge into it, gain shots, and then just destroy and one-shot from there. Can even run the Leaf Storm. Again, if you are lacking on that damage, Leaf Storm will make sure the opponent does not survive, and Sceptile is going to be really powerful. So huge amounts of speed, huge amounts of damage, does need a little bit of combo to be at its most reliable, but still pretty powerful from there. And number 5 in Grass-type Pokemon is going to be the Breloom, because Spore. If you can't deal with the Breloom, it's going to Spore you. It's also going to have a Focus Sash, and it's just not going to be something you want to see, because you're going to sleep. Unless you can put it to sleep faster through some weird ways, you can't Spore it. So you have to hit it with like a really fast, awkward Hypnosis, and you can't blow it up because it has the Focus Sash unless you're using something that hits multi and hits it super effective. So Icicle Spear? Like, there are very few ways of actually stopping this Breloom unless you're a Grass-type Pokemon and you can eat up its Spore. Breloom does struggle against other grasses, and that's kind of it. Now, it does also have the Technician ability, so it's just going to Mach Punch you with ridiculous amounts of damage, or it's going to go with the Bullet Seed. And Bullet Seed, each hit procs Technician, so if you use Bullet Seed 3 times, boom. Huge amounts of damage, even 2 times on the Bullet Seed, is going to be comparable to a Seed Bomb. You can find weird coverage from the Breloom outside of that, like Rock Slide will be there from time to time, the Drain Punch just for more fighting damage or something like that. It's mostly just going to be Spore, Mach Punch, Bullet Seed. Now, the main weakness of the Breloom is going to be its speed, but again, you outspeed it once, that Pokemon's going to sleep, and then it's going to tech you down with Bullet Seed and then Mach Punch. That's a big problem. Also, 130 attack, as I've mentioned, the highest attack of any Grass-type Pokemon, surprisingly powerful, so you just have to burn through it, and then if you're a Grass-type, you still, like, the matchup is even unless you have something to hit it super effective. If you don't have the Sludge Bomb, if you don't have the Hidden Power Ice, still going to struggle against the Breloom, and it's just one of those Pokemon you have to be ready to deal with, or it's just going to be absolutely devastating. I say Breloom changed Pokemon almost more than anything by having a really awkward Spore into high amounts of damage. 100% chance to put the opponent to sleep, that's just a little too powerful in my book, and that's why it's going to be number 5 on the list. Number 4 and number 3, let's just go and slap both these Pokemon up here, because I think they're effectively in the same realm. At any given time, Amoonguss is as powerful or more powerful than Ferrothorn, but Ferrothorn is more powerful than Amoonguss. So number 3, number 4, just filthy tanks. Amoonguss does have the Synthesis and Sustain, and it does have that coveted Sludge Bomb, so it can go for super effective damage and anti-out against other Grass-type Pokemon, but also it does have the Giga Drain and just nastiness overall. And then you get your like one tech move that you can put in here. You have options for the Clear Smog, you have options for the Foul Play. You can just kind of make it to where Amoonguss is going to do what you need it to do, and that's going to be kind of crazy to think about. And then Amoonguss, also a Pokemon that gets the Spore. So it's going to be kind of like Breloom in that very difficult to one-shot, and then the Spore is going to do something like that, and it has Regenerator. So if Amoonguss takes too much damage, it switches out and does really just comes back in, and it's just as strong. Synthesis Regenerator plus a Black Sludge is going to make it to where it's almost getting all of its health back instantly, and that can be difficult to deal with if you're not blowing it up on every single turn. Ferrothorn, it only has 2 weaknesses. Fire, 4 times weakness, and Ferrothorn's actually so tanky, it can survive Fire-type moves that aren't stab. Like, if you have a high special defensive Ferrothorn, way too tanky, just disgustingly tanky, and get some of the most reliable setup in the game. So your Stealth Rocks, pretty much going to happen unless they tech against you with like a Taunt or a Magic Bounce or some kind of Magic Coat shenanigans like that. Iron Barbs makes it to where just it's going to be really difficult to hit it physically because, okay, you're trying to make those contact moves, those fighting type moves, those fire type moves. You're going to be taking damage back unless you're using an Earthquake in a lot of situations against the Ferrothorn, and it can also run the Leftovers. So not a lot of sustain on Ferrothorn. It's going to need to get in on that Leftovers, going to need to get in on the Leech Seed, have the Protect, and then into the Gyro Ball. But after that, that's still a pretty nice set. It can handle against Fairy-type Pokemon, the Gyro Ball on such a slow Pokemon, or you can run into something like the Relax Nature just to kind of boost the damage on your Gyro Ball just a little. Make sure you get that max damage Gyro Ball, and 94 base attack uninvested means your Gyro Ball is still going to hurt, Leech Seed is going to drain, and you are going to be one of the most frustrating Pokemon to deal with. They don't have Fire, they're in trouble and they can realistically be stalled out. So yeah, depending on what your team needs in the moment, Ferrothorn and Amoonguss could be one of the best options. Just some of the most absurdly tanky grass type Pokemon in the game, and Ferrothorn is like the exception to the rule of, hey, grass type is going to be too weak. Well, this is what happens when a grass type Pokemon doesn't have to worry about those weaknesses. You get Ferrothorn and it's absolutely filthy. Number 2 is going to be Venusaur Mega. Mega Venusaur, as we mentioned before, the thick fat removes 2 of its weaknesses, and then it's just really tanky. Has the Synthesis, has the Sludge Bomb, gets the Stab, but it's going to have more damage than the Amoonguss. I mean, you run max hit points, max special attack. You can also find some like speed sets and stuff, but it's going to make it to where Fairy type Pokemon, they don't get to do much against you unless they're running like the Psyshock, or if it's Gardevoir with like Psyshock or Psychic, which you will see, which does threaten the Venusaur. I mean, those like one of the only things that has to worry about, Psychic and Flying, which aren't the most common weaknesses to have to deal with. So then Synthesis into Giga Drain, so now you have that Sustain in there. You also have the Sludge Bomb, and then you have some other options, like after the Sludge Bomb, we look into the Sleep Powder. Put your opponent's sleep, just beat them down, and since it is that grass type Pokemon, you can't Spore it. You can't do some things to it, which would be very nice to be able to do, and Venusaur is just going to tech out and have so much damage and so much just hard to remove. It's very reliable, not going to be like a Amoonguss in that it can regenerate forever, but it's just going to be tankier. I mean, we look at this 70, 80 on the 114, well, 123, 120 on the 80, and the way that I value defenses in Pokemon, the way that the damage calculation works, are going to be more powerful. So higher defense, better than higher hit points. Venusaur, more damage, more just things. It can actually carry through a sweep if the opponent isn't ready for it, and that's why it's going to be number 2 on the list. Didn't put it on my top 10 poison because I think Venusaur more shines as the grass type hero to kind of get over all the grass weaknesses, and it really stands out as one of the strongest Mega Pokemon in the game, and strongest Mega Pokemon for grass typing. Alright, honorable mentions. Jumpluff. I want to lead with Jumpluff. It's like the Whimsicott that could. It's like a non-prankster Whimsicott. Still a very high amount of speed. Interesting tankiness, but I mean, it can get that outspeed into the Cotton Guard and then do some nasty things. Also has a Sleep Powder. So a fast Sleep Powder on the Jumpluff, helping hand in doubles, and it can even Synthesis out if it needs to. It's kind of weird like that, and it does also get an Infiltrator ability. Your opponent is trying to put up a substitute. You can Leech Seed it, you can Sleep Powder, you can get the damage that you need to get across, but then Whimsicott, it's a Flying Grass, so Ice is going to blow you up. You're not the most durable Pokemon. You're just going to be fast and hope you can cheese out. Now, I have seen some weird sets like Swords Dance for extra damage and then fun stuff, but that's Jumpluff, guys. Also, other honorable mentions, I mean, Victreebel and Exeggutor were on their respective lists for the other dual typing. I mean, Chlorophyll, Victreebel is going to be ridiculous mixed damage, and if it gets that growth off, you know, it has a little bit, it can go for a little bit on that growth. So Focus Sash into growth under Chlorophyll, double speed, double attack, double special attack, and then a lot of really weird mixed damage. Like, is it going to go for the Weather Ball, which gives it fire, double power fire move right there, or is it going to get into a Sludge Wave or Sludge Bomb and really tear you up? And then it also has the Seed Bomb if you need a physical move to just kind of be peppered in there. So it's going to do cool things on the Victreebel, items, Focus Sash, and then just really surprising amounts of damage. And we also have the Exeggutor. So when it comes to Exeggutor, that was a number 10 because it has the Harvest ability. Harvest, really, really cool. Could be Chlorophyll as well. Harvest into Hayden's set, you know, you get some stats into it through a Baton Pass, or you just kind of bring it in like that. You go for a Lychee Berry or a Salac Berry. Now you're outspeeding or outdamaging anything your opponent has as options. And then we can also look at the Parasect. Parasect definitely deserves to be on this list because of the way that it can play out on that Effect Spore. So Effect Spore into Spore, one of the other few Spore Pokemon. If it survives a hit, it's going to be looking good. And in VGC 2016 does have the Wide Guard, so it can stop some pretty crazy shenanigans, can Spore back the opponent, and it has a little bit of anti-meta and some fun tech around it. Other honorable mention, I would say Trevenant, Harvest, but a lot of weaknesses. Ghost and Grass means it's going to be hit by a lot of things, and it's not going to have that fun of a time. And now it's time for the number 1 grass type Pokemon, and technically the most recent grass type, Superior. Well, I mean, most recent in that it gets the Contrary ability. So Superior gets Contrary, and then all hell breaks loose because Leaf Storm. Now we're making it to where we're using a 130 base power attack that instead of lowering your special attack, it's going to double it, then triple it, then quadruple it. So all Serperior needs to do is get that first Leaf Storm off. If it gets the first Leaf Storm off, it wins the game. GG. So Leaf Storm is going to be good damage, and it might not KO, but then the second Leaf Storm, doubling the damage. You're using 3 Leaf Storms in 2 turns. That's way too much base power, that's way too much stab. Even on that 75 special attack, it's going to be able to carry through with a 113 speed. So you outspeed your opponent, even with that timid nature, you double your special attack, and then you just win, and then you just dumpster everything your opponent has. Now Serperior can be heavy resisted, and does have to worry about the Talonflame, but everything on this list has to worry about Talonflame in some form, so that I wouldn't count against it, and it has natural defenses. So you can run something like a Citrus Berry, just tank up even a super effective hit or a non-super effective hit, Leaf Storm, Leaf Storm, Leaf Storm, and then snowball your way to victory. Serperior will be working around its team very well, that if you remove the 1 or 2 Serperior threats the opponent has on the team, it just wins. Now you also have Dragon Pulse for coverage that you can run out, also run a Hidden Power or something like that, and then the coverage does drop off from there, but you can run something like Protect just to keep safe from weird things. You can even Taunt, so outspeed taunt your opponent's setup. You have things like the Substitute, you even get Glare. Glare is an interesting bit of tech, because if the opponent happens to be faster, you glare them, and if they're already missing some health, you Leaf Storm finish, and you're good to go. Or if you already have a lot of momentum, you want to bring in Serperior on a lower health opponent, because Leaf Storm, that finishes them off, and now you're looking to one-hit KO anyways, and if the opponent's faster, you glare, you take up the hit, then you Leaf Storm or find your coverage, and then you're good to go. So Serperior, very nasty, and even in some really weird cases, has the Mirror Coat. I've won battles from the Mirror Coat because there was a Sylveon. Sylveon had the Hyper Voice, and Leaf Storm was not enough damage because Sylveon is a massive special defense tank. So you run the Mirror Coat, you one-shot anything that's special tanking you that can deal the damage back, or a Fire-type Pokemon with a Flamethrower, something like that. Focus Sash Mirror Coat, still very powerful. And that's going to be the GG. So if you guys enjoyed the video, those are the top 10 Grass-type Pokemon. I hope you all have a nice day. Thank you for watching.